Greetings and welcome to This Week in Bitcoin. And this week was a special one. A lot of special occasions happened. Things were released, things were said. So let's get stuck in right away. News item number one is that Bitcoin is at center stage in Davos for the World Economic Forum this year. Usually, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies have been dismissed at these events, although you had certain projects there. However, this year around, things are completely different. We had people like Larry Fink just casually mentioning speaking to sovereign wealth funds and that they're looking at the 2 to 5% portfolio allocation, or people like Brian Armstrong who are speaking to finance ministers and talking about Bitcoin national reserves. And then we also had Ray Dalio mentioning that he himself owns 1% in his portfolio and that it's a great alternative form of money. Or UBS CEO Sergio Ermotti, who is very critical of crypto and Bitcoin, but he said in a talk that it's much more than just speculation. There is a speculative nature to the asset. However, if you see what is possible and how the old finance world needs to step forward, you really need to consider this innovation. That's usually talk for, we're going to look at DLT and blockchain projects, but hey, they will get at one point to Bitcoin. It just takes a little bit of time. As I said, it's a different tune than usually comparing to 4 years ago, where everyone was laughing at you if you said something positive about Bitcoin. And it's proof that things are changing fast. And speaking of changing fast, we also have the second news item where Donald Trump yesterday during the night, at least of the time of recording this video, signed the executive order regarding a crypto national stockpile. Yep. I said crypto national stockpile, not a Bitcoin national stockpile, because he didn't specify what kind of crypto would be in there. Having said that, though, in politics and in economics in general, crypto and Bitcoin, they get mixed up. They mostly mean Bitcoin because it's the biggest one in their eyes and, it's at the top of the list and we're always going for number one. However, it was inevitable that we would also see other crypto things creeping in, let's say. What's very positive, though, is that there is a no CBDC rule in there. So it should be handed over to the private sector and stablecoins should be flourishing. There is the question, and that one remains, whether that could be sort of a CBDC in a honeypot, because essentially you can pressure the stablecoin issuers. However, I would say it's much better than actually having an executive order where it would say you need a CBDC. So we're going to work with what we have. But if you actually read through the thing, everything needs to now be discussed, investigated, and looked at. Senator Loomis also triggered everyone by saying 10 a.m. big major announcement, and it wasn't the National Reserve. It was her becoming head of the banking committee and the digital assets investigation team. And now we've got the right people who understand Bitcoin only, her as well as others in the administration at the table. And it's now up to them to determine when they are going to introduce the Bitcoin National Reserve and whether it will just be a Bitcoin National Reserve. And last but definitely not least, very importantly, founder of Silk Road, Ross Albright, is finally free. He sat in prison for over 11 years at this point for creating a marketplace. The marketplace is essential in Bitcoin's history because it was the first major use case and major project where Bitcoin was actually used as a money online. He was then sentenced to double life plus 40 years with no parole, and the only real issue he was able to get out of was a pardon, and Donald Trump held up his promise. Was it on day one? Wasn't it? I mean, did day one start on inauguration or the day following? I would say in hindsight a little detail. However, good to see for Ross that him and his family can now enjoy life as normal citizens. And with that, we're at the end of This Week in Bitcoin. You know the drill. If you got questions, feedback, or just want to say hello, leave a comment below. And I look forward to seeing you next week. And if you haven't yet, please also subscribe to the channel so you never miss another video.